Imagine a world where millions flow like water. Where power is not earned through degrees or decades of work, but in weeks through shadows, secrets, and silence. Now imagine a man who believed he could play that game, outsmart the system, and vanish into paradise before the first alarm bell even rang. This is not fiction. This is the true story of a young man from a quiet Flemish town who did not want to be rich. He wanted to be untouchable. And for a while, he almost was. His name, Zacharia LK. But in the underworld, they called him Peewee. Not because he was small, but because to those who knew him, he seemed too ordinary to be dangerous. Too calm. Too smart to get caught. He was not some hardened gangster raised on street corners. No. He was a student. A lover. A planner. And behind the quiet eyes of a 20-something from Morsel, Belgium, a criminal empire was being built. One that would one day move over a ton of cocaine, generate nearly 30 million euros, and shake the foundations of Europe's most fortified port. But like every empire built on sand, it was only a matter of time before the tide came in. It all started not with a crime, but with a classroom. Zacharia enrolled at AP Hogeschool in Antwerp, studying what no one seems to remember. But what mattered was not what he learned. It was who he met. Her name was Hanan. Sharp, ambitious, studying insurance and finance. The kind of girl who balanced spreadsheets for fun. They fell in love. Shared dreams. Talked about the future. And if you had seen them walking hand in hand through the cobbled streets of Antwerp, you would never guess that their love story would one day be told in courtrooms, in police wiretaps, and in the shadowy corners of international crime networks. Because while Zacharia sat in lectures, something else was whispering in his ear. The port. The heartbeat of Antwerp. The largest cocaine gateway in Europe. Every year hundreds of tons of white powder slip through its steel gates. Smuggled in banana shipments, refrigerated containers, even car parts. And in a city where 1 in 5 young men knows someone involved in the trade, the line between observer and participant is thinner than a razor's edge. Zacharia did not want to be a mule. He did not want to risk his neck climbing into a container at 3 in the morning. He wanted to be the architect. The man who never got his hands dirty but still got filthy rich. So while other students worried about exams, Zacharia was designing a criminal startup. His idea. A temp agency. Not for warehouse workers or delivery drivers, but for men who could get inside the port of Antwerp. Specifically inside Med Repair, a company that serviced refrigerated shipping containers. Why Med Repair? Because that was where the drugs arrived. Hidden in the walls, buried under fruit pulp, vacuum sealed, and labeled as agricultural equipment. And when a container docked, someone had to open it. Someone had to repair it. Someone had to look the other way. Zacharias' genius was this. He never set foot in the port. Not once. While his couriers crawled through shipping yards under cover of darkness, he stayed in his apartment, glued to his phone, orchestrating withdrawals like a general commanding troops from a bunker. He used his temp agency to place loyal men inside Med Repair. Men who would text him the moment a container with special cargo was scheduled for inspection. Men who could delay customs, fake maintenance logs, or simply vanish with a few duffel bags during a shift. One dock worker about to be fired was paid to stay silent for 5 extra days. Just long enough to pull off a major extraction. And Zacharia. He never signed a contract. Never showed his face. He was a ghost in the machine. By 2018, the operation was running like a Fortune 500 company. Shipments arrived from Colombia, Brazil, Venezuela. They were transferred in the dead of night to European-bound containers less likely to be scanned. Or they were driven straight to safe houses where the real players divided the spoils. The gang had a name, though no one ever said it out loud. It had a hierarchy. At the top, Peewee and his right-hand man, Adil. Below them, couriers like Ali Fal and Muhammad. Men who moved fast, stayed quiet, and got paid well. One job, one extraction could earn them 200,000 euros. For Zacharia, $1 million per shipment. And they did this 12 times. But here is where the story takes a turn. Because every criminal empire has rules. Unwritten laws passed down through generations of traffickers. Rule 1. Never talk on the phone. Not regular calls. Not SMS. Nothing that can be tapped. Use encrypted apps. Burner phones. Silence. But Peewee's crew. They chatted like teenagers. Police wiretaps captured them boasting. "This money cannot go down. It only goes up. In 2 years we hit 1 million. Then we stop." They were not hiding. They were celebrating. And that is when the first crack appeared. Rule 2. Do not flash the cash. The moment you buy a Lamborghini, a penthouse, or a gold-plated watch, the police start asking questions. Especially if you are officially unemployed, living in social housing, or collecting unemployment benefits. But Peewee's crew did not care. They wore Louis Vuitton Cartier Rolexes. They booked luxury trips to Dubai, Greece, Turkey. Hanan, once the quiet finance student, now had so many designer handbags her closet could not hold them. On a recorded call, she giggled to a friend. "I do not know which Louis Vuitton bag to take for our trip to Dubai. I feel like Kim Kardashian." The prosecutor later said in court, "This is not the spending pattern of an average employee. No. It was the spending pattern of someone who thought they had already won." Then came Rule 3. The one that always gets broken. Never tell your partner. Because when the law comes knocking, the first person they interview is the one who shares your bed. The one who knows your routines, your fears, your secrets. Hanan claimed she didn't know. Said she trusted Zacharia completely. Called him a good boy. But under interrogation, the truth slipped out. Yes, she knew. Yes, he told her. He even said, "A few more jobs, then we retire, then we live free." And when asked if she approved, she hesitated. Then said, "Maybe I exaggerated when I said he was the wisest boy in the world." A quiet admission. A lifetime of trust shattered by a single confession. But the real danger wasn't the police. It was the other players. The ones who didn't care about rules or retirement plans. In February 2019, everything went wrong. A withdrawal failed. The cargo didn't make it out. And that night, masked men kicked down Zachariah's door. Guns drawn. One pressed a pistol to his forehead. "You owe us 200,000 euros, they said. For the failed job. No names. No warnings. Just violence, swift and cold." Zacharia, the mastermind, the untouchable kingpin, was now on his knees begging for his life. His crew scrambled. They debated hiring a private detective. They traced phone signals. They suspected betrayal. But the message was clear. In this world, no one is safe. Not even the boss. And while they were busy cleaning up their own mess, the police were closing in. Because for all his brilliance, Zacharia made one fatal mistake. He believed he was smarter than the system. But the system had cameras, informants, encrypted data trackers, and years of experience dismantling gangs just like his. Investigators began with low-level dealers tracing messages, following money, building a web. They uncovered 27 suspects. They mapped the network. And slowly they realized this wasn't just another street crew. This was a corporation. A vertically integrated supply chain from South American cartels to European consumers, with Peewee at the helm. Then came the day that broke them. Summer 2019. Intelligence suggested a massive shipment, 1.3 tons of pure cocaine, was arriving in a container from Brazil. Police moved in. Surveillance teams watched. Drones hovered. And as the sun rose over the port, they struck. In the middle of a transfer, as men in work uniforms slid duffel bags from one container to another, the raid began. Sirens. Shouts. Handcuffs. One man, Motto's K, was caught on video moving 46 sports bags in just 20 minutes. Sweat on his brow. Nerves on edge. Each bag worth hundreds of thousands. The evidence was undeniable. The operation was over. But Zacharia. He wasn't there. He was already gone. By the time the police stormed his apartment, it was empty. No computers. No documents. Just a wardrobe full of designer clothes and a life abandoned. He had seen the signs. The failed job. The threats. The increased police presence. And like any good strategist, he vanished. To where? Dubai. The city of golden towers and no extradition. The promised land of fugitives and billionaires. And as of 2023, according to Belgium's most wanted list, that's exactly where he is. Living in a luxury apartment with a view of the Burj Khalifa. Watching the world move on without him. But here's the twist. The deeper investigators dug, the more they wondered. Was Zacharia really the boss? Or was he just a front? Because there was another name that kept coming up. Morad, known on the streets as Mr. Noodle. A man with connections, experience, and a reputation for silence. He came from a powerful Moroccan family with business ties across continents. He had even dabbled in acting. And he owned a restaurant ironically called Mr. Noodles that was shot up in 2018, drawing police attention. Investigators believed Morad might have been the true link between the cartel suppliers and the corrupt port workers. The real middleman. The one who pulled strings without touching the product. Then there was Black Abdallah. A shadowy figure mentioned in intercepted calls. After the failed extraction, one of Peewee's men said Black will not laugh about this. A warning. A threat. A sign of internal war. Later Morad was accused online of stealing a 120-kilogram shipment. His ID card was posted on Facebook. A bounty of 100,000 euros, dead or alive. Was it a bluff? A power play? No one knows. But what's clear is that behind the scenes of Peewee's rise and fall, a deeper, darker conflict was unfolding. One that may never be solved. Because here is the truth about the drug trade. It is not just about money. It is about power, loyalty, betrayal, and the illusion of control. Zacharia thought he could outsmart everyone. He believed that by staying in the shadows, by using proxies, by never touching the product, he could build an empire and escape unscathed. But crime has a way of catching up. Not always with handcuffs. Sometimes with a gun to the head. Sometimes with a partner's confession. Sometimes with a single mistake. A text message. A luxury watch. A boastful phone call. And yet he is still out there. Free. Rich. Watching the sunset over Dubai. Wondering if the next knock on the door will be the police or someone worse. Did he win? Or did he just delay the inevitable? Because in this world, retirement is not a villa and a beach. It is silence. And silence, more than anything, is the rarest commodity of all. Now let us go back to the beginning. To that small town of Morsel. To the boy who dreamed big. Because the scariest part of this story is not the violence, the money, or the escape. It is how normal it all seemed. How a student, a lover, a planner, someone just like you or me, could slip so seamlessly into the underworld. No dramatic turn. No tragic backstory. Just ambition. Opportunity. And the belief that the rules do not apply to you. The port of Antwerp moves over 300 million tons of cargo every year. Among them an estimated 20 to 30 tons of cocaine. Hidden in plain sight. And every year new players emerge. Smarter. Quieter. More ruthless. Some will fail. Some will flee. And a very few will disappear so completely we may never know their names. But for a moment one of them let us see inside. His name was Peewee. And his story. It is not over. Because as long as there are ports and planes and people who want to get rich quick, there will always be another Zacharia. Watching. Waiting. Planning his next move. And what about Hanan? Last known, she cooperated with authorities. Gave testimony. Walked away with her freedom but not her peace. Because how do you live with the knowledge that the man you loved was not who you thought he was? That the dreams you shared were built on blood and lies? She once said he was the wisest boy in the world. Now she knows better. But wisdom in the end came too late. As for Adil Ali Fal Muhammad, the foot soldiers of the empire, they were not so lucky. Convicted. Sentenced. Locked away while their boss sipped cocktails in Dubai. A reminder. In crime as in life, not everyone gets the same ending. Some carry the weight. Others walk away. And the system, it adapts. The port has added more scanners, more dogs, more undercover agents. But the smugglers adapt too. New methods. New routes. New faces. This is not just a story about one man. It is about an ecosystem. A global network where a container from Brazil can end up in a warehouse in Belgium, then in a club in Berlin, then in the bloodstream of a stranger. Where a temp job can be a cover for a multi-million euro heist. Where love can turn into betrayal. Where a single decision to make that first call, to place that first bet, can change everything. And maybe that is the real warning. Not about the police or the prison or the fugitive life. But about the moment you decide that the rules do not apply to you. That you are smarter, faster, luckier. Because in the end, the game does not care how smart you are. It only cares how long you can stay ahead. Zacharia LK thought he had it all figured out. He had the plan, the team, the escape route. And for a while it worked. But empires built on cocaine are built on sand. And no matter how high you build, the tide always comes in. So the next time you hear a story about a drug lord, do not just see the crime. See the person, the choices, the cost. Because behind every ton of cocaine there is a life that was changed. A family broken. A dream corrupted. And somewhere in a luxury apartment overlooking a city of lights, a man sits alone. Rich, free, and forever looking over his shoulder. Because in the end, the only thing harder than escaping the law is escaping yourself. If you thought this story was unbelievable, wait until you hear the ones still hidden in the shadows. The truth is out there, moving in silence, one shipment at a time. Stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, in a world where millions change hands in the dark, the most dangerous lie is believing you are untouchable. Subscribe for more real stories from the edge of crime, power, and survival.